Good day, everyone. Our topic today is all about the lesson planning. But before we proceed to our discussion, we need to identify our learning objectives. So, first is identify what is lesson plan and 6 steps for preparing your lesson plan and the 3 key components of lesson plan. Second, perform the 3 key components of lesson planning and appreciate the importance of lesson planning. What is lesson plan? A lesson plan is the instructor's roadmap of what students need to learn and how it will be done effectively during the class time. A lesson plan is a teacher's guide for facilitating a lesson. A successful lesson plan addresses and integrates 3 key components. First, learning objectives. Second, learning activities. And the third one is assessment to check for student understanding. First is learning objectives. Learning objectives outline what students are expected to know, understand, or be able to do by the end of the lesson. They provide a clear focus for instruction and serve as a guide for both teachers and students throughout the learning process. Effective learning objectives are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Next is the learning activities. Learning activities are the instructional strategies and tasks designed to facilitate student engagement and achieve the learning objectives. These activities can take various forms, including lectures, discussions, group work, hands-on experiment, multimedia presentations, and more. The key is to select activities that cater to diverse learning style, encourage activity participation, and promote critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Well-designed learning activities not only enhance students' understanding but also foster a positive and dynamic learning environment. Lastly, assessment to check for student understanding. Assessment is the process of gathering evidence of the student's learning to evaluate progress and inform instruction. It serves as a checkpoint to measure whether students have achieved the learning objective outlined in the lesson. Assessment can be formative, occurring throughout the lesson to provide feedback for ongoing learning, or summative, conducted at the end of the lesson to evaluate overall mastery. So the example of the assessment is like quizzes, tests, projects, presentation, and observation. So, by incorporating assessment into lesson planning, teachers can identify areas of strength and weaknesses, tailor instruction to meet individual needs, and ensure that learning goals are met.
We have here the 6 steps for preparing your lesson plan before your class. And the first one is identify the learning objectives. So before you plan for your lesson, you will first need to identify the learning objectives for your lesson. And a learning objective describes what the learner will know or be able to do after the learning experience, rather than what the learner will be exposed to during the instruction. Typically, it is written in a language that is easily understood by students, and it should be clearly related to the program learning outcomes. Second steps is to plan the specific learning activities. So in here, when planning learning activities, you should consider the types of activities that your students will need to engage in. in order to develop the skills and knowledge required to demonstrate the effective learning in the course. And learning activities should be directly related to the learning objectives of the course, and you should also provide experiences that will enable your students to engage in practice and gain feedback on specific progress towards those objectives. And also, as you plan your learning activities, estimate how much time you will spend on each and build in time for extended explanation or discussion. The third step is plan to assess student understanding. Assessment like tests, problem sets, and performances provide opportunities for students to demonstrate and practice the knowledge and skills articulated in the learning objectives, and for instructors also to offer targeted feedback that can guide further learning. Planning for assessments will allows you to find out whether your students are learning, and it also involves making decision about the number and types of assessment tasks that will best enable students to demonstrate learning objectives for the lesson. Fourth step is plan to sequence the lesson in an engaging and meaningful manner. Robert Gagne proposed a 9-step process called the events of instruction, which is very useful for planning the sequence of your lesson. Using Gagne's 9 events in conjunction with Bloom's revised taxonomy of educational objectives aids in designing engaging and meaningful instruction. The fifth step is to create a realistic timeline. A list of 10 learning objectives is not realistic, so narrow down your list to the 2 or 3 key concepts, ideas, or skills you want students to learn in the lesson. Your list of prioritized learning objectives will help you make decisions on the spot and adjust your lesson plan as needed. Here are some strategies for creating a realistic timeline. First is estimate how much time each of the activities will take, then plan some extra time for each. Second, when you prepare your lesson plan, next to each activity, indicate how much time you expect it will take. And next is plan a few minutes at the end of the class to answer any remaining questions and to sum up key points. Next is plan an extra activity or discussion question in case you have time left. And the last one is be flexible. Be ready to adjust your lesson plan to students' needs and focus on what seems to be more productive rather than sticking to your original plan. The last step is plan for a lesson closure. Lesson closure provides an opportunity to solidify student learning, and it is useful for both instructors and students. You can use closure to check for student understanding and inform subsequent instruction. And it can emphasize key information, tie up loose ends, correct students' misunderstanding, and the last one is preview upcoming topics. Overall, the importance of lesson planning is it serves as a compass and a guiding teachers through the complexity of teaching and learning. It delineates clear objectives, instructional strategies, and assessment methods, providing a roadmap for effective instruction. So this structured approach not only ensures the seamless flow of lessons, but It also cultivates a sense of purpose and direction in teaching practice. Furthermore, lesson planning ignites creativity and innovation in teaching. It encourages educators to explore novel approaches, experiment with instructional methods, and integrate technology to enhance student engagement and motivation. Through thoughtful planning, teachers can design interactive learning experiences that inspire curiosity, critical thinking, and lifelong learning among students. In essence, lesson planning is more than just a procedural task. It is a dynamic process that underpins effective teaching and learning. It embodies the principles of organization, inclusivity, creativity, and reflection, serving as a cornerstone of educational excellence. As educators, embracing the importance of lesson planning enables us to create enriching learning experiences that nurture the intellectual, social, and emotional growth of our students, laying the foundation for a brighter future. That's all for today, class. I hope you learn and understand our discussion. Thank you for listening.